so we are excited about our next speaker. Oh my gosh, you guys, he's going to bring it. Yes, he is talking about the 3 levels of intimacy.
Come on, brother.
Yes. And so we're bringing up Dr. Dwayne Buckingham.
I love God. You don't love God? What's wrong with you?
How y'all doing?
Great.
So, I'm excited to be here. You know what? James and Cynthia, I mean, that energy. I wish I had James. Woo, he's on fire, right? I mean, that energy that he brings to the table, man, that's good stuff. I'm excited that you all invited me to be here. Now, I apologize that my wife could not be here, Sonia. She's currently in the Dominican Republic. We were over there vacationing. I decided to come back so I could be here and be part of this wonderful conference. But she continued to stay over there with our son, Dwayne Jr., having a great time. But I did not want to miss an opportunity to talk to you guys about this particular topic. When they asked me what I wanted to speak about, I said unconditional love. But Cynthia said, you know what, we really appreciate it if you could talk about intimacy. But I said, well, I'll talk about intimacy if you allow me to throw some sexual bliss in there, right? So what man doesn't want to talk about sex, right?
Right. Come on.
As long as I can add the sexual piece in there, I totally agree to be able to do this presentation. So I'm going to talk to you guys about 3 levels of intimacy. How to create and sustain sexual bliss in your marriage. The key word here is sustain, because a lot of us create it when we first get married, but somewhere along the line it kind of fades. So I'm going to give you all what you need to help you be able to sustain that over an extended period of time, right? So, jumping right into this, because I am a licensed clinical psychotherapist, I also work for the government, I always have to put my disclaimer up there. And this disclaimer basically said there's 2 components to it. The first component basically says that what I'm offering you all today is not a substitute for professional guidance, meaning that what I give you, I still encourage you to sit down before someone else and talk about the things that I want to put out there. The second part of the disclaimer basically says that I am not liable for anything that allegedly arises from what I'm saying. So if I say something to you fellas and you go home and you have problems, it's not my fault. So I'm putting it out there now, right? It's not my fault. So I'm going to share some things with you, but that's my disclaimer. All right. So what qualifies me to actually discuss intimacy and sexual bliss? That's a question that you should ask yourself whenever you have someone present some information to you, particularly when it pertains to your marriage. This is your bond, it's your covenant. You should be screening that individual.
Amen.
You should make sure
sir.
that you're getting the right kind of information from the right kind of people. You all agree?
Yes.
So, when Cynthia, she said, you know what, I want you to talk about intimacy because I believe you passed the knowledge and the wisdom test. So I'm going to let you know, this is how I play. So we say knowledge is information, awareness, and understanding that is gained through what?
Experience.
Study or experience, right? You get them either way, right? So let's see if I actually passed the test. I studied human behavior and development in college for over 10 years, a 10-year period, and I earned 3 degrees. I have a BSW, MSW, and a PhD. That's the study piece, right? So I did a little study. So let's see the other part of the experience. We said it's about experience. I've conducted psychological and marital assessments and provided therapy to over 30,000, keyword 30,000 individuals and couples worldwide over the past 18 years. Well, Dr. Buckingham, how is that possible? I joined the military in 1998, and I had an opportunity to live in Germany and Turkey and different parts of different states, right? And every day, for about 18 years, I sat down and I provided therapy 5 hours to 6 hours every day. So that's how we get to 30,000. You do the numbers. So I had a lot of experience in doing this marital thing. So the last thing about experience is I'm married and I'm getting the cookie, as Steve Harvey would say.
Come on.
I'm married and I'm getting the cookie on a regular basis. So when we're talking about sexual bliss is about sexual happiness, right? So that's my experience factor. That's why I'm qualified to talk about this particular topic. Now, wisdom. What is wisdom? Wisdom basically is the ability to apply knowledge, right? And experience with what? Common sense and good insight, right? So I would say to people, they often say that power is knowledge. Power is not knowledge. The application of power is knowledge. You can have a lot of stuff in your head, but until you learn how to apply, you have nothing. So it's an application of knowledge that actually makes you powerful. So with that being said, this is what I've done. Based on my academic, my professional, and my personal experience, I have learned what works and what does not work when it comes to creating sexual bliss and keeping what? Bedroom steamy. We all get married to keep the bedroom steamy. I'm getting hot talking about that. That's why we get married. That's how I got married. So with that being said, that's what qualifies me to talk about this. Now I always have rules of engagement. These are the 5 things. Basically, the first one says do what?
Judge
others. I have a tattoo on my arm that says judge not unless you be judged, right? Do not judge others. Keep an open mind because you can't learn unless you open up. A closed mind gets nothing. So keep an open mind. The third thing, ask questions that engage in dialogue with who? With me. Because you learn through dialogue, not through listening. When you have an exchange of information, that's how you learn. So I encourage you all to engage in dialogue. Actively and respectfully do what? Listen to others. I often say that God created us with 2 ears and 1 mouth. We need to listen more and talk less sometimes. That's how you actually learn, right? So you want to actively listen as people present you information. And the last thing is relax and what?
Have fun.
Relax and have fun, right? So when we talk about marriage, and people get all tensed up. Marriage is nice. It should be fun. It should be exciting. It should be things we talk about. People get all tensed up when we talk about marriage. So I want you all to relax and have fun. Proverbs 18:2. I'm a Christian guy, and out of all the books in the Bible, I love Proverbs because Proverbs is what? The book of knowledge. It's wisdom, right?
Wisdom.
Who can tell me what is 18:2? What does that say? And I know it's hard, I don't necessarily remember scripture off the top of my head. But if anyone could tell me what 18:2 is, I'll give you a package. I actually have some gifts here that I brought with me. I have some gifts here. I'm going to give some gifts away for individuals who can answer. You look it up real quick. First one, look it up and give it to me. Look it up and give it to me. Proverbs 18:2. Hurry up. First one to give it to me. First one to give it to me. Win a gift. Win a gift. What is it? What does it say?
A fool takes no pleasure in understanding, but only in expressing his opinion.
Woo, that is great. And I'm going to give you a gift, right? So listen to this. A fool finds no pleasure in understanding, but delights in earning his own opinion. That's powerful, right? Because that's a fool. Because the only way that you're going to learn is to understand. So you can't understand how to have intimacy or marital or sexual bliss in your marriage until you take the time to listen more and seek understanding and not always open up your mouth and give your opinion. That's the problem. A lot of us like to give our opinion more than we actually like to listen, right? You agree? So with that being said, I have a gift. You can take whatever you like. But here, this is what I'm actually giving. This is what I call my Black Love package. It's 3 books, 2 books, and a DVD and a music CD. This is your gift to have. So you can get this. You come and get it now. Black Woman's Work, The Black Man's Work, a Black Woman's Work DVD, a Black Man's Work DVD, and a music CD. I wrote the music. It's Black Love package.
You still in school. Stay in school. Get that.
So, we're going to move right on real quick. I got a little time. I want you guys to get to lunch. But this is our roadmap, right? Whenever you go somewhere, you have to have a map. You have to have guidance where you're going to go. I'm going to do these 4 things. I'm going to explain the importance of discussing this topic. I'm going to define intimacy and sexual bliss. I'm actually going to describe the 3 levels of intimacy. And then I'm going to provide 6 tips for creating and sustaining eternal sexual bliss. Keyword eternal. Eternal means what?
Forever.
Forever, right? We're not talking about that. Get married tomorrow, and first couple of years is steamy, and then it dies off. We're talking about eternal, right? So I'm going to talk to you guys about eternal bliss. And the last thing is a call to action, because I don't believe that when you go to a conference, you should just go to a conference and listen. I believe you should have tools that you can use and walk away with. So I'm going to give you all an opportunity to get some of the tools that I have that's going to help you create the sexual bliss that you need in your marriage. All right. So why should we be talking about this? We should be talking about this for 2 reasons. It's important to talk about intimacy and sexual bliss. The first reason being, according to the National Opinion Research Center, the average American couple reports having sex 66 times a year.
Ooh, jeez.
I've said to some of my single friends, they got depressed. Like, why would I get married? They say 66 times a year. A lot of people are not getting the cookie. Staying married, but not getting the cookie. The cookie's not happening. The second part of this is 15 to 20% of couples have sex less than 10 times a year. Less than 10 times a year. This is defined as what? A sexless what? Marriage. Do you all know people like that?
No, I don't know about like that.
You all know? Unfortunately, in that 30,000 couples that I've talked to, that number, they're out there.
You must have been in Russia.
They're out there. They're not having the sex, So that's why we should be talking about this, because as James said, I think marriage is under attack, right? But they're not only under attack from the outside, it's under attack because we're not even making room for ourselves within our own households and our own bedrooms, right? So that's why we have to talk about this. Now, on the positive side, we need to be talking about intimacy and sexual bliss, because having soulful sex on a regular basis is one of the greatest pleasures of marriage. That's why I got married. Would you all agree?
Amen.
Come on now, say it.
I'm just saying.
Well, I got married. The other part is sex is good what? Exercise, and it keeps us healthy. You all agree with that? I don't know what kind of sex you all have, but I get some exercise in. That's a benefit. It's good. So, and this is not me just joking. I'm saying medical professionals literally have argued that sex is good for health because it is good for your what? Respiration.
Yeah.
For muscles. And even your bladder control.
Hey now.
So you're sweating, you're getting the workout in, you're stretching, you're doing all. It's good for your health and add 10 years to your life.
So you mean that you're a doctor in this, right?
Correct.
So you can prescribe the sex diet, right?
This is exactly what we're going to do. Talk about sex diet. Because it needs to be, some of us need to be on a diet when it comes to sex. I'm going to talk about that. That's a great point. So, yes, you help me teach this. So, what is intimacy, right? So we have to understand, in order to have sexual bliss, you have to talk about this thing that we call intimacy. So the question is, what is the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about intimacy?
Sex.
Connection.
Sex, connection,
Togetherness.
togetherness,
Oneness.
oneness. So understand what was just said. We had a male perspective, and he said the first thing out of his mouth was what?
Sex.
Then we had a female perspective, and the first thing out of her mouth was what? Connection. So we would say that we would think of intimacy as interesting because from a male perspective, the first thing that comes to my mind, like most males, I would agree with you, probably hang out, is sex. Unfortunately, that's part of the problem. I mean, literally, I'll talk about that. Because then with female, as we said here, she said what? A sense of a deep, emotional, and spiritual what? Connection. So we think different, right? And so this is part of the problem, is that when we think about intimacy different, we're probably not going to be able to sustain it. So the third thing here is what? A close and warm partnership. That's not the language we use. It's not what I use. Unfortunately, I was single for a long time. I needed to be close with you. I needed to be warm with you. I just wanted to have sex. Unfortunately, that's part of the problem, right? But unfortunately, we take some of that single mentality into our marriages. You agree? Yeah. We take some of that trash, that garbage into our marriages, and that's where we have problems. So the bottom line is this. Intimacy is all the above. I had to learn this. It's all the above. It's not one or two of those components. It's all of those components. If you would define intimacy, I define it as this. A secretive sexual relationship that involves a sense of deep emotional and spiritual connection with a close one partner. You see how I put it all together? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Would you all agree that's what intimacy should be about?
Yes.
Secretive. And the reason why I say secretive is because we get married. We don't go around talking about our sexual life to everybody.
That's right.
That's right.
So that's supposed to be a covenant between who? You and your spouse. That's not for everybody to know what happens in your bedroom or what doesn't happen in your bedroom. You all agree? So this is something that's secret. That's what intimacy is about. When you're a little boy, you tell all your friends. When you become a man, you talk to your wife.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Come on, say
yes, sir.
That is
yes,
what
sir.
we're talking about here. So we're talking about what is sexual bliss. So sexual bliss, we talk about bliss, bliss is happiness, right? So what is the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about sexual bliss? Satisfaction. What else?
Excitement.
Long-winded. Exciting. What else?
Orgasm.
There we go.
Smiling.
Smile. So we're talking about sexual bliss. We're talking about happiness. This is the first thing that comes to my mind. Having a fulfilling, happy and fulfilling what? Sexual intercourse. The key word is happy and fulfilling. That's what bliss is. When you're in a relationship that it has sexual bliss, it's happy and it's fulfilling sexual intercourse. The second thing is bodily what? Pleasure that is received from your spouse. So we said satisfaction. We said orgasm is bodily pressure. That's what sexual bliss is, right? The third thing is passionate and what?
Monogamous.
Love me.
We get married. There's a covenant between who?
Yes, sir.
Two people.
Yes, sir.
And everybody. Say monogamous. It's me, my wife, Sonia.
So basically, when it's you and your partner, you can just do whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Do whatever.
Do whatever.
It's
Me and you, one-on-one.
Free game. You and him one-on-one. He said. Say, put it girls in me. So, sexual bliss is what? It's all of the above. It's not one, two, or three of them. It's all of the above, right? So then I define sexual bliss as this. Happy and fulfilling sexual intercourse and bodily pleasure that occurs in a what?
Passionate
and what?
monogamous
what?
relationship with a loving partner.
And the A is singular, which means a partner, not multiple partners. We're not talking about anything beyond that. So that's sexual bliss, right? So, in order to have sexual bliss, we have to understand that intimacy is what you need to focus on. But before I talk to you all about the 3 levels of intimacy, what I like to do is I have a knowledge quiz. I have one couple come up here because when you get married, I believe you work together. So I have one couple come up here. You can answer. I got gifts. So you want to come up here, got gifts, basically. All you have to do is answer these 3 questions. Answer them correctly. Take a shot at it. One couple. Any couple. No couples don't like the gifts. Some of you all like gifts.
Here we go.
It's just a real one. Yeah.
Yeah, come on.
Come on, bro. Let's do this. Let's do this. That's it.
Wait,
I bring life to the relationship.
You bring life to the relationship. So, we'll have you all go first. And the key is to you guys get them all 3 right? So, is there a connection between the level of intimacy and sexual bliss in marriage? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. What is the number 1 reason for low sexual bliss in marriage? Primary focus on kids.
Emotional neglect.
Emotional neglect. So it's their turn. Let them. And then you all can
Can we pick more than 2?
What is the number 1?
What's the number 1? It's either A or B. Okay, we're gonna go with C.
You're gonna go with C. And then number 3 is which level of intimacy is extremely important for creating sexual bliss in marriage?
Come on.
See.
B. It's all about the woman. Okay.
All right, so we got their answers. Now, what would you all say? Number 1, yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. Number 2.
See.
And number 3.
Which level?
Bro, you better say B.
See? Well, unfortunately, I was wrong. Neither of them were right. So, we still went for it. We still get a prize. So, I'm going to give the prize at the lunch. I'm going to give you all my little. Okay. All right. So, thank you all. It was a draw, right? It was a draw. So, they both won. They're both winners. So, the bottom line is there is a connection between the level of intimacy and sexual bliss. The answer to that is yes. And then, what is the number 1 reason for low sexual bliss in marriage? The answer to that is D. Marriage was built on, or is operating on what?
Okay.
And then number 3, which level of intimacy is extremely? Key word is extremely. It's C, it's spiritual, right?
That's right.
It's C. So those are the answers to that. So let me break this down and help you all understand this. This is the connection between intimacy and sexual bliss. So marriages that were built on physical intimacy equal low what? Sexual bliss. Not getting the cookie on a regular basis. Dissatisfied life. Marriages that were built on spiritual intimacy, what? Equal high sexual bliss. And that getting the cookie on a regular basis. Satisfied lifestyle. So let me explain this to y'all. Does that make sense? That makes sense. Yes.
It makes sense, but how are you qualifying high sexual bliss, like, or getting the cookie regularly? Like, can you give some numbers or percentages?
High sexual bliss.
Good question.
Is on the average at least once every 2 weeks.
That's it? Just once every
That's on the low end, at a minimum. When you're on the real low end. But on the high end, we would be saying every other day. On every other day. That would be the high end. On every other day. That's more like it. The brother's more like it. Now, we'll talk about this because again, on the beginning stage of the marriage, we have individuals who actually have it on a more frequent basis. But those who are married, who are excelling in their careers, those numbers go down. I'm telling you, they go down drastically. Whether you want to or not, they go down. And I'm going to talk to y'all about why. But there is a connection, bottom line. Now, this is what we're here to talk about. This is the bread and butter. In order for you to get to that high sexual bliss, we have to talk about the 3 levels of intimacy. And see, I put them in terms of levels. Because when you think about a pyramid is designed, and at the bottom of the pyramid is what?
The base.
The base, right? A pyramid is the foundation, because when you look at a pyramid, it's doing what? It's going up, right? Which means that at the first level, that's your foundation. It's just like having a house. When you build your house, you want a strong what? You want a strong structure. You want a foundation, because if it's not built on the right level foundation, at the top, it can potentially do this, right? It can waver, and eventually, if it's not built on the right foundation, it will destroy, crash, drop, right? So this is why we have to understand the 3 levels of intimacy. As you look at my idea of what this is, to your left side here, it said what? Spiritual intimacy is about doing what? Praying together, right? And it says that it's what? Extremely important.
Yes.
We would say the second level is about emotional intimacy, and it says what? You cry together, right? And that is very important. And then at the top part is what? Physical intimacy, and that is about sleeping together. That's, it says, low importance. The problem with a lot of the couples that I see, that I deal with, they have built their relationships on physical intimacy, because physical intimacy, as I will describe next, is the easiest form of intimacy. Because all physical intimacy requires is an eye. I can see you, I can lust for you, you got all the curves I like, you come across well, and so it's easy for me to develop a relationship with you. And that's part of the problem.
So basically, it's an atmosphere that has to be set in order for the sexual part to be where you want it to be.
You're right.
You're right on. It has to be set on the right level of intimacy. We all have intimacy, but if your marriage was not built on the right level of intimacy, it's not going to last. If your marriage was not built on the right level of intimacy, your sexual bliss will be low.
So it's like if you don't have that spiritual and emotional, it's like being single, having sex with like that, right?
Yes, it is. That is very critical. Because
the atmosphere that has to be set in order for the sexual part to be where you want it to be.
You're right.
You're right on. It has to be set on the right level of intimacy. We all have intimacy, But if your marriage was not built on the right level of intimacy, it's not going to last. If your marriage was not built on the right level of intimacy, your sexual bliss will be low.
So it's like if you don't have that spiritual and emotional, it's like being single, having sex with like that, right?
Yes, it is. That is very critical. Because again, because God created women and men who were slightly different. Men have a tendency to attract, and we are attracted to women based on
what we see.
Women typically are attracted from where?
The
our heart, right? And so this is how you can understand that when you bring two people together who are on different levels of intimacy, we have a problem.
That's right.
You all agree?
Mm-hmm.
We have problems. So you have to understand what these three levels of intimacy is. So the question is, which level of intimacy was your marriage built on? That's the question you should be discussing. That's the question you need to write on your notepad and meditate on. Which level of intimacy was your marriage built on? You need to have frequent discussions about that, because that's the key to sexual bliss. So let me go into a little bit more detail about what these levels mean. I'm going to go through this fairly quick here. Three levels of intimacy, right? So at the first level, we have spiritual intimacy, where we're talking about praying together. So these are the very important components. Spiritual intimacy evolves based on what? Common faith and purpose. When people have spiritual intimacy, they understand why they coexist. I deal with a lot of couples, they don't even know why they're together. When you have spiritual intimacy, you have a purpose, you have a meaning for why you come together. And you go out and you conquer the world together because you have a purpose. That's what spiritual intimacy is really about. Or if you don't have that defined when you get married, you work diligently to establish that purpose. You all agree?
Yeah.
That's spiritual intimacy. Now, some of the other more components is strive to be equally yoked in most facets of life and places who in the center of your marriage? God.
Right.
If God is not at the center of your marriage, you're going to have problems. And I'm going to talk to you why that is even more important than anything else when we're talking about spiritual intimacy. The last two things here at the bottom share core values. See, we all have values. But in order for your marriage to work and for you to feel that happy and fulfilling sexual bliss, you have to have core values. Right. Core values are things that don't waver. Right. I joined the military. And in the military, we have core values. Integrity, service before self, and excellence in all you do. So I would not marry a woman who didn't have integrity. I would not marry a woman who didn't put service before self, which means that when you get married, it's not about you. Sometimes you have to put your marriage before yourself. You have to give your service, right? You all agree, service before self, and excellence in all you do. Because if we're having a marital problem, I don't want someone who is too prideful not to seek help.
Right.
Because we have to be excellent in all we do. That means in our marriage as well. So those core values, you need that in your marriage. Would y'all agree?
Yeah.
That's what spiritual intimacy is about. Now, if you take it to the second level, this is very important as well. Emotional intimacy. Emotional intimacy has these components. Expression of personal needs, emotions, and thoughts. Bottom line is, when you have emotional intimacy, you are okay, and you are okay with feeling vulnerable, right? You trust that your partner has your best interest at hand, that they're going to be there for you, that you can express your deepest needs in your care, and you have a connection. The last level is physical. This is the problem. This is why a lot of marriages are at 50% divorce rate, because people get married based on physical intimacy. This is the problem in and of itself. Intimacy that involves the physical displays of affection. He makes me feel good. She makes me feel good. So what? There's a lot of people who make me feel good. Right? You all agree? So what?
That's true.
But that's the problem, is that part of the reason why they say we should wait to have sex till we're married, because unfortunately, you're tainted when you don't do that. So you will fall in love with someone who God didn't mean to have you, because he didn't make he gave you an orgasm.
Yes, right.
He didn't physically please you, and now you walk into the altar with the wrong man. That's the problem. That's why the divorce rate is at 50%. Because people get married based on this physical stuff that provides immediate gratification, but short term.
There you go.
Y'all agree?
Yes.
So the bottom line here is this. If you want to be able to create and sustain sexual bliss in your marriage, I'm going to provide you with 6 tips. These are 6 tips. Take some notes. These are things you need to do in order to be able to get the cookie every other day, 2-3 times a day.
Or every day.
Every day. Every day. So, number 1. First, you want to conduct an assessment of your current level of intimacy. So my question to you was, what was your marriage built on? What level of intimacy was your marriage built on, right? You want to conduct that current assessment. So, the reason why you want to do this is because greater understanding increases capacity for greater intimacy. A lot of couples come to me and they want to be fixed. And I say to them, you can't fix something that you don't understand. You understand? Fix this, fix that. You can't fix something until you understand it.
Right.
So first you have to understand what this intimacy thing is all about. So that's what I encourage you all to do. In my book, Unconditional Love, Marriage Edition, this book, as well as the workbook, you will find a marriage intimacy assessment. It's 60 questions that will help you understand whether or not your marriage was built on the right stuff. That's your first step. You have to find and understand. Your second step is this. Focus less on what? Physical intimacy and more on what? Developing spiritual. Would you all agree that spiritual intimacy is the key to sexual bliss? This is critical because you have to become a student of your spouse and learn about his or her emotional spiritual needs. You try to hear what I say, become a what? Become a student of your spouse. You got to study your spouse. You have to understand what their emotional needs are, what their spiritual needs are, what their psychological needs are. You are the best person to become an expert of your spouse. Not Dr. Buckingham. Because you are the one that's with them 24 hours, 7 days a week. So you become a student, and that's how you begin to develop spiritual intimacy.
Wifeology.
The bottom line is here is that be mindful. I often say to my couples that in-depth and soulful connection, with your partner outside of the bedroom will lead to blissful and sexual relationship inside the bedroom. So the problem is, don't focus on what you're doing in the bed. That's the problem. A lot of couples, you're not having sex. You ain't having sex because you ain't dealing with what's happening outside of the bed. Y'all agree?
Yes, sir.
That's the key. So here we go. The third thing, make time in your schedule for sex. My wife and I have a son, and I often would think that it would be spontaneous. Unfortunately, when you have children and life and work and this and that, you have to schedule. You get busy. You have to schedule. People say, I don't have time to schedule. You don't have time to schedule. You ain't going to have time to have it. So you have to make time. You have to make it a priority, right? So the fourth thing is to pray for renewed and rejuvenated commitment. This is critical because I often tell people, think about the covenant that you made before God. When your marriage is on the rosters and that you stood before God and you made a covenant, and you should use that as motivation to generate romantic feelings with your spouse again. The fifth thing here is remain resilient and do not give up. One of my favorite quotes, personal quotes, resilient couples find solution in problems. In contrast, troubled couples find problems in every solution. I know when my couples are troubled because when I try to give them solution, they poke holes in everything that's wrong with what I'm trying to offer them. That's when I know that they're troubled. Because when you're resilient, you find solutions. You keep moving. And so that's critical. Y'all get that? Remain resilient. Don't give up. And then the sixth thing here is seek counsel. It's bottom line. That if you're struggling to create and sustain bliss, get help. One of my favorite quotes is Vernon Law. Vernon Law basically he says, experience is a hard teacher because she gives the test first and the lesson afterwards. What do black people do? We love a testimony. What is a testimony? A testimony is about going through and then coming out and saying, I made it. That's our biggest problem. Because you don't have to have a testimony to make it. That's why God created and put people on earth like Dr. Buckingham who can help you so you don't have to go through. But we live and breathe for a testimony. That's powerful. You can learn through other people so that you do not have to go through the test. Because when you get counsel, when you get help, you get the lesson plan. So when you go to school, you get a lesson plan and then you do what? take the test.
Yeah.
But in our relationships, we do it backwards.
Right.
We take the test and then we get the lesson.
Yep.
Make sense?
Yeah.
We do it all wrong. So, this is the take-home message. Spiritual intimacy can intensify emotional and physical intimacy, but physical intimacy cannot intensify emotional and spiritual.
Wow.
You all get that?
Yeah.
Yes.
You all get that? Sexual bliss is a byproduct of spiritual intimacy and soulful what?
Connectivity.
So if you want to have sexual bliss in your marriage, you need to focus on your spiritual intimacy. When you get that spiritual intimacy thing together, then you can have that sexual bliss. That's the bottom line. You have to work at spiritual intimacy, not physical, not emotional. So, this is the opportunity. So this is one thing I said I would do to you all. Opportunity to take action, right? So, as of today, I would say to you that this unconditional love marriage book, this workbook, the regular prices are up there, $15.95, $17.99. As of today, you purchase today, I give you both for just $20. Because I believe that if you don't invest in your marriage is not going to succeed. It's not going to last. And it bothers me when I talk to people, and specifically I talk to couples, and I'll talk to young women who say to me, I just went out and bought a purse, and it cost me $300. Do you know the cost of divorce range anywhere from $30,000 to $60,000? But people won't pay $20 for a book, and then wonder why they're having problems.
Amen.
It amazes me
Amen.
how our priorities are jacked up.
Yeah. Messed up.
That we pay $300 purses, but not a $20 book that can help your marriage go to the next level. So you need to learn how to take action. I offer a 45-minute telephone session, an intimate session, where I will actually provide you with a free ebook called Getting Love Right, Assessing Compatibility with Your Partner. I have compatibility assessment tools in there that you can take about 5 of those tools to understand the core values and all the other things that you and your partner have, critical to your success in your marriage. And if you want to do those, you can purchase now, you can send an email to receive a PayPal invoice, and you can get those things right now. Now, to close this thing out, I have just a couple minutes. We said this is going to be interactive. I always close out with a creed. Because when you take a creed, when I joined the military, they had me raise my right hand.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Come on. Say it.
So that you were going to agree to
Yes.
live by these rules.
Yes.
And you couldn't be a part of this institution, which is a marriage is an institution,
Yep.
unless you agree to these rules.
Yeah.
So I want everybody stand up.
Yeah.
Come on, brother. Say it. Twice per day.
Twice per day. So we'll close out on this particular note here. I want you to repeat after me. This is your
Married people
marriage.
only stand up?
No, everybody, because even if you're not married, you're thinking about it. If you're thinking about it, you need to think about this. So, repeat after me. I state your name.
I
am committed to creating eternal intimacy
I'm committed to creating eternal intimacy
and sexual bliss in my marriage.
and sexual bliss in my marriage.
My intimacy output
My intimacy output
will determine the sexual outcome
will determine the sexual outcome
in my marriage.
in my marriage.
It is my duty.
It is my duty.
It is my duty
It is my duty
to make romance a part of my everyday diet in my marriage.
to make romance a part of my everyday diet in my marriage.
Everyday diet. We're talking about the diet.
Yeah.
Everyday diet.
This is
I
what
can
people, right?
and will become a change agent in my marriage.
I can and will become a change agent in my marriage
And give the kind of intimacy that I desire.
and give the kind of intimacy that I desire.
I will make an effort to meet my spouse's emotional and romantic needs.
I will make an effort to meet my spouse's emotional and romantic needs
On a regular basis.
on a regular basis.
On a regular basis.
On a regular basis.
And engage in selfless behavior.
And engage in selfless behavior.
Selfless behavior.
Selfless behavior.
To satisfy my spouse.
To satisfy my spouse.
I realize that no marriage
I realize that no marriage
is perfect.
is perfect,
But I deserve
but I deserve
to be in a marriage
to be in a marriage
that is built on spiritual intimacy
that is built on spiritual intimacy
and is filled
and is filled
with eternal sexual bliss.
with eternal sexual bliss.
You all been sworn into this thing.
That's some serious stuff.
Yeah.
That's serious stuff.
All right, let's give it up for Dr. Buckingham. And what's good about it is, that's like our business, Marriage Built to Last. Because we believe in God-centered marriages, and we were definitely built on the Spirit. That's where we started out, because that was the foundation. And just like a flower, when you see it, it has to be seeds first, and it has to be planted. And that is the foundation. So you have to cultivate it and nurture it. You know what I'm saying? So that's good. So let me ask you a question. So you say your wife's in the Dominican Republic, right? Yeah. So when you first say, what you want to do? No. I'm getting hot thinking about it. No, but seriously, so say there's a couple and they have the physical intimacy, and they even have the emotional intimacy, but they don't have the spiritual intimacy, but maybe one person does. How would they handle that? Yes. I would say get help. Bottom line, because there are some people who believe that one person can do it, but the key word about relationship is relate.
Yes,
So
come on, brother.
You have to be able to relate.
Yeah.
And so if you got one person, that's where equally yoked is all about, right?
Yeah.
It's not about that we have to be perfect and on the same page, but we have to be able to relate to each other and understand. So if one person is operating on the wrong level, I say get help because we need two people operating on the right level of intimacy.
Yeah.
Very much. Let's give it up for Dr. Buckingham.